Are you currently busy with a schedule full of errands, yet strangely bored with the life you've built? When people ask you what you do you find yourself answering with who you used to be rather than who you are becoming? Hi, welcome to Ignite Retirement. I'm Bill Hennessy, the Retirement Igniter. And last week we drove into the habit trap, those comfortable, repetitive routines that keep your feet moving but leave your soul standing still. Today we're taking the next step. We aren't just identifying the traps, we're moving from the pause phase of our methodology to uncovering and releasing the weight of your old career so that you can step into your new calling. I call this the busy but bored paradox. It's that strange space where your calendar is full of doctor's appointments and grocery runs and oil changes, and yet at the end of the day, you don't feel like you've accomplished anything that matters. If that's you, stay tuned. We're going to fix that spark today. I went to the doctor's office yesterday. I'd injured my shoulder doing something I love, gardening. I wasn't really listening to the young man who was checking me in. I was just too busy wondering what I'd just lost in terms of mobility. Old age stuff. I guess you probably understand what I mean. Anyway, the guy checking me in asked if I was retired, and I answered yes. The look on Marie's face was priceless. She had sort of a say what expression on her face. I quickly corrected myself by qualifying the statement. I'm semi retired. I work on the projects I'm passionate about. Well, the kid behind the window must not have been any more engaged in the conversation than I was because he just moved on to the next question. He had all the questions memorized. Now, all he needed to do was work on a little bit of expression. My point? I framed my answer by whether I was punching a clock instead of what I do now and the value of what I do now. I need to rehearse that. It's a subtle reminder that we tend to dismiss retirement as a lesser season than our full time working careers. That doesn't have to be true. I've been hearing from a lot of you via email lately that there's a recurring theme: isolation, a feeling of fading away. One listener recently told me, Bill, I spent 30 years as an executive. People who used to wait for me to speak. And now I feel like I'm just the guy in the hardware store aisle that people want to walk around. That's a heavy weight to carry. It's an identity crisis. For decades, your identity was anchored to a title, a paycheck, a specific set of responsibilities, a role. You knew exactly who you were because the world told you every morning at 8 a.m. Now, the silence of retiring can be deafening. The problem is that many of us try to apply work logic to retirement living. You think if you just optimize your schedule or get more efficient at your hobbies, fulfillment will come. But efficiency isn't the goal anymore. Significance is. And to get there, we have to look at why we're rebranding this journey to Ignite Retirement. Let me tell another story of myself. Some years ago, when I was looking ahead at what retirement would mean for Marie and I almost fell for one of the biggest lies out there. One morning, I woke up and suddenly decided I wanted a Harley Davidson Sportster. I could taste the freedom, the wind in my hair, cruising down the highway, and I almost bought the prop, thinking that it might give me the feeling of freedom that I was longing for. But thank God I took a motorcycle safety course first. I was stressed, I was sweating, and midway through the second day, I realized something terrifying. I loved the idea of the Harley, but I hated the reality of riding it. I was chasing a prop, an object to fill the void, rather than my genuine mission. As older Americans, were constantly sold the idea that if we just buy the toys and optimize our schedule, that elusive retirement fulfillment will come. But that's just applying work logic to retirement. We can't just replace our work identities with a new label. We need to discover the why behind our longevity. What is it that God has for us in this new season? In my purpose method, we start with pause. Once the momentum of your old life slows down, you have to uncover what's actually underneath the hood. Think of it like this: a career is what you were paid to do, a calling is what you're made to do. Many of you have skills that you haven't used in 20 years because your job didn't require them. Maybe it's mentoring, a creative craft, or maybe it's community leadership. But here's the hard part. To uncover the new, you have to release the old. You have to stop being the retired vice president, the former teacher, the guy who turned wrenches. As long as you're clutching onto that old title for dear life, your hands aren't free to grab onto the new mission God has for you now. Releasing doesn't mean forgetting your history. It means acknowledging that your history was the training ground, not a finish line. Going, so how are you going to practically start this? I want to give you a challenge this week. Using step 5 of the purpose method, observe. I want you to perform an identity audit. For the next 48 hours, pay close attention to your conversations, the ones at the coffee shop or with your spouse or maybe at church. How many times do you reference the past, what you used to do, versus how many times do you talk about what you're building now? If 90% of your stories start back when I was working or in my old industry, your engine is stalling. To ignite your retirement, we have to start fueling the new opportunities. Start practicing about your current projects as if they're just as important as your 30-year career, because in this season they are. If you're struggling to pinpoint exactly what your future looks like, come join me in person. I'm going to be working through these phases deeply at our upcoming workshop in Atascadero, California on May 29th and 30th, and I'll be doing it again in Springfield, Missouri at Life 360 Chesterfield Church in August. Visit retirementigniter.com to secure your spot. Let's stop the fade. Let's start that fire. I'm Bill Hennessy, the Retirement Igniter, and I'll see you next week.